It's more than rap. Elevation. More than how your money stack. Elevation. Move forward, no going back. Elevation. Now where you from, but where you at? I be coming through, bombing shit with no hesitation. Step into this booth, slay this beat like my name was Jason. Domination and preparation led to a new sensation, new creation. That's what you're facing. Now watch my elevation.
The next topic we're going to discuss on Boxing Bros is there have been reports that Davis versus Romero did 250,000 pay-per-view buys. We're going to take a look at one of those sources.
275.
Oh, yeah, 275,000. All right, and we're going to take a look at one of those sources, which is Dan Rayfield. And what Dan Rayfield posted was, per sources involved in last week's event, the hashtag Davis Romero Showtime pay-per-view will generate nearly 275,000 domestic buys, which will represent at Gervonta's best selling of his 4 pay-per-view events. The replay of the fight will open Showtime's triple-header cash on Saturday night. So, and that was posted on June 2nd. So, according to Dan Rayfield, formerly of ESPN, I honestly don't know where Dan Rayfield is now. He's saying that the fight is going to generate around 275,000 pay-per-view buys. I'm going to turn it over to Kaspira G, formerly Poppy G. What's your thoughts on those pay-per-view buys?
The projection, I agree with it. You know what I mean? It seems in line with what Tank has done in recent past. You know, I mean, yeah, it makes sense in this market. You know, and Broly's fairly unknown, so it makes sense. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm not really I kind of feel like 275 made sense for that fight. You know, like I kind of feel like if Tank was going up against like a more known person at 135, then the numbers would be higher. But it is Rolly that we're talking about, so you know that's strictly Tank that's bringing in all of those pay-per-view buys. It ain't. I'm being honest. No disrespect, Rolly. I'm just being honest, man. Rolly, you're not that dude, bro. So, but you are entertaining. So I'll say this: and Rolly's antics help, but Rolly's just not that dude that's going to be bringing in people's like pay-per-view numbers. I'm curious to see what Rolly does after this loss. Let's see if Rolly can do another pay-per-view show, and let's see those numbers. Let's see if Rolly's really that pay-per-view star that he's talking about.
All right, I'll Bill, you get it.
With all due respect, I just got to keep it.
Now, hey, listen, man. Shout outs to the numbers. That's what's that $22 million right there that they made, right? Off the pay-per-view. You know what I'm saying? Shout outs to Rolly. Rolly made. They just showed you why. He had other fights on pay-per-view. What's the highest?
Rolly, that's what they're saying. Rolly.
Well, what's the difference?
Rolly.
No. What's the difference?
He had 4 pay-per-view fights, and Rolly was the highest one.
Yeah, but
Rolly was the difference.
By how? But what amount? Like,
Rolly was the difference. No matter. Rolly was the difference. Everybody, they were sick and tired of Tank. After the Cruz fight, it was nobody. These are all Rolly fans that came to see this fight. Tank lost all his fights after the Isaac Cruz fight. You know what I'm saying?
All right, so how about this?
These are all Rolly's fans. These are all Rolly's.
Grab those 4 pay-per-views.
You know what I'm saying?
Average out the amount.
And then
subtract it by that 275 and that difference.
I'm not going to do that, G, because I'm not a mathlete. So I'm not going to do that. I'm an athlete. Go ahead.
All I know is who was his highest pay-per-view and who was it with? Rolly. You say Rolly has become a star overnight himself. When you talked about the buildup of this fight, the only person they was talking about was Rolly. Even good or bad, they were talking about Rolly. Rolly can't go nowhere now. Rolly is what they're going to use now to sell fights. Rolly is a huge star. He needs security now. Even after losing, he done lost and became a bigger star after being knocked out. You know why? And people are still mad because the boy ain't holding his head down, tucking his tail behind his legs. He's out celebrating, living his best life, not depressed or nothing. He knew he gave it all he got. You give the boy a little bit of more time to build his skill, he might be something special. But don't take no credit away from Rolly. He talked. He talked people into those seats. He talked people to go out there because they sold out in the Barclays because he ran his mouth. He ran his mouth and made them people come out there to see him get his head knocked off. You know what I'm saying? And he was doing good until experience kicked in. The boy was doing good until experience kicked in. Rolly sold that fight. Single-handedly sold that fight. Tank didn't have to do much. Tank didn't have to do nothing but just sit back. Sit back and train the hardest he ever trained for and for a fight ever. That's the other thing he ever did. All he had to do was sit back and train the hardest he ever did for this scrub. For this scrub nobody, you know, named Rolly. And he trained so hard for. You know what I'm saying? Rolly came out. Now you see Rolly, you seen him at the fight. He was getting mobbed. He was getting mobbed. They were saying, Rolly, you need security now. He said, nah, I don't need security. The people love Rolly. You know what I'm saying? The people love Rolly. You know what I'm saying? He's going to prove it in his next fight. Whoever he fights, he's going to prove it because he gained, you know, respect of people. People thought he was out in the first round. First 60 seconds, they thought he was out. But the kid with no skills that came into this sport late showed showed people a lot. You know what I'm saying? By staying in there for as long as he did do. And doing a little couple things in there. So I definitely don't want to take nothing away from Rolly. I think that is great that they made $22 million because it was 275 times 80, right? $22 million, right? So I think that it's good that they did that, and I'm proud of Rolly. You know what I'm saying? I'm definitely proud of Rolly because he talked himself into this. And we're sitting here talking about Rolly. You know what I'm saying? That's a major accomplishment for the young man that came from absolutely nowhere, you know? So shout out to Rolly. Shout out to Tank. The biggest fight ever. Let's see what Tank does on his next numbers.
All right, TVE.
Rolly made that fight.
These numbers, honestly, I feel like we keep lowering the numbers when it comes to pay-per-view buys. Because 1 minute it's 500. First it's like 1 million. Then it's like, you know, I want to use the example for music because before it'll be like 1 million buys is like gold. Then so-and-so is silver.
1 million buys was never gold.
It's platinum. 1 million buys is platinum.
600,000. 500,000 is gold. Gold.
And then we drop it down to 1 million streams, 800 streams, then it's 10,000 streams, whatever it is.
You already answered your question indirectly. Already answered your question indirectly. You don't even realize it. Go ahead.
We lower the bar. And I don't know what 275K pay-per-view buys equates to, but for me, back in the day, I had higher numbers. That's all I'm saying.
You're talking about
in this era, if it means something significant, then it was something significant. I want to say this. It's far from 1 million. It's far from 1 million. And if this equates to gold, so let me get this straight, Ned. At two guys at 135 pounds, one guy who's fairly known, the other one who's fairly unknown, should have generated 1 million pay-per-view buys a year.
It's not a championship fight. Nobody has a bet.
It was a WWA regular championship fight.
You guys,
like I said, nobody had a belt.
No. You guys are being real nice to Ned. Ned, there are so many things that factor into that. One, back when they used to do 1 million pay-per-view buys, pay-per-views were $50. That's one. They were $50 back then. Now pay-per-views are $75. The other thing is piracy is at an all-time high. There wasn't a YouTube back then. Shortly after the fight, you know it's going to be on YouTube, which wasn't the case back in the day. Back in the days, it was actually like a cable box that you needed, and then you had to watch the fights. And then even as the YouTube came, it was still in its infancy and still growing. And people were always bootlegging fights, but not at this rate. Piracy's at like an all-time high now. So that's the other thing. You're talking about people used to buy records, and you're right. Back in the days, people used to have to go and buy CDs to put into a CD player. When's the last time you walked into a car and saw a CD player, bro?
When's the last time you seen a bootlegger?
I'm old, bro. I used to go to Funky Fresh and get the cassette tape.
That's what I'm saying. It went from cassette to CDs, And now they don't even put CD players in cars anymore. Club car don't have a CD player, bro.
You used to have to press the thing twice so that the tape flip over in the car. You know what I'm saying?
I say that.
No, hold on, Ned. Streaming now. That's why they went from you go platinum with 1 million buys to 1 million streams and then 5 million streams, because that's what the world is going to, streaming. But just as easy as it is to stream an album now, they don't even call it bootlegging album now, right? Because people just streaming them. You just stream an album, right? You go on YouTube, the album's there. As easy as it is to stream an album, it's even easier to steal a fight now. So that's why these numbers are different, Ned. You would agree, right? Like that matters.
But I miss my bootleg guy, yo, when he used to give me DVDs. All of that. I miss him. I'm not gonna lie.
He used to give you the 6. He used to give you the 6 for 20, man. I know he used to give you the 6 for 20.
Yo, do me a solid. Anytime I ever sound as foolish as that right now, please stop the segment.
Yo, listen, my thing is, I don't know where the numbers lie. What does 275K mean? Is it gold? Is it platinum? I don't know where that falls.
All I know is $22 million. That's all I know. Times 80 is
22 million for the 135 division is great numbers, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's
great. If these were heavyweights, I'd be like, these numbers don't look too good.
Especially what these guys are supposed to be getting for that fight.
That's what I'm saying. You gotta think about what you're saying, bro.
Especially look at Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. They did 800, but like there was a lot of bootlegging within that, and like to do 1 million pay-per-view buys now is going to be very difficult. It's going to be very hard because now they're asking for a lot of money in a time where people are having to choose because some people aren't making as much money, and then at one point we were talking about people losing their jobs. So you got people who really had to decide, like, yo, can I even afford to buy this fight?
Get gas for my car.
Bro, it cost me $90 to fill up my car.
I want to say this: when a good fight happens in front of a pay-per-view buy, when in a room where somebody pays for a fight, there's probably like 4 to 8 people in that room. That's what I say. 4 to 8 people, from my experience. 4 to 8 people watching this fight for free, where one person pays for it, and when a good fight happens, that encourages people to pay for a fight. Like, this guy's a good fighter. This guy puts on the show. So from what I'm saying is, they gained following. Davis was the winner of the fight. So Davis gained traction off of this fight. Romero gained some shine light off of this fight. And I think this is good for this 275K pay-per-view buys equates to something bigger. It's gonna grow in the coming years. Where if these names are involved in another pay-per-view fight, then this number is gonna be more extreme. But I'm just saying, 275K. I've not seen people do that. It's nothing new. But congrats to them fighters for jumping the bar.
Yo, Ned, think about it like this: sales minus cost.
Yeah,
so whatever their purse is, right? Then look at the pay-per-view numbers. If there's a huge profit margin, it's a success.
It's just like movies.
You have guys with huge
I agree.
purses,
it's just like movies.
And then the pay-per-view buys are like subpar, or they just broke even, or they take a loss.
Yeah.
It's horrible. You get what I'm saying? Rolly, I don't know how much they paid Roller for this fight, but I know they ain't paying that much, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so really, it's really on tape.
It's like a movie. If they pay all these actors to come play, they have a casting budget. They pay for the budget, and then the movie grows way more than they paid everybody. They made a big profit. If the movie,
you know the answer, so why you even ask the question?
No, but I'm just saying I don't know what it equates to the boxing world. 200, like there's like a limit. Like oh, they sold 100K. If they sell over 100K, the fight made money. If they sold under, it flopped. So I guess I do know the answer. Never mind.
Yeah, this dude too grown to act like this, yo. Too grown to act like this.
Act like what? You know what? Yeah.
Now I'll say this. You know, on top of that 275,000 that they did in pay-per-view buys, they also had the largest gate ever in the Barclays Center, which equates to money. Go ahead, bro.
No, I'm sorry. Y'all wanted to know how much Rolly got. They said reportedly Rolly got Tank was guaranteed a purse of $2 million, and Rolly was guaranteed $500K.
Yo,
so they made off like
this is great.
Yeah, they made off, bro. They got over 20 million.
They said, but then they said with the pay-per-view share was 60%, which meant that Tank walked away with $5 million and Rolly walked away with $1.5 million. So they still that's only 7.5.
Shout out to Leonard, shout out to Al, shout out to Mayweather.
There's only 7.5 they had to pay after pay-per-view.
That's what I'm saying. They did great. That's great numbers then, Ned.
Yeah, and we're not even talking about the gate.
That ain't even talking about the gate.
Gate was the biggest gate. The fact that it's Tank's biggest pay-per-view, it could mean a number of things. It could mean Tank's growing larger, which I think is a possibility, but I also do think it matters that Rolly did a really good sales job, because going into it, people weren't enthusiastic about that fight. But as time went on, a lot of people wanted to see Rolly lose, and a lot of people wanted to watch the fight to root for Rolly. I think you can't underplay or downplay Rolly's contribution to that fight being a success, because, Trill pointed out, there's a video of him right now at a fight and people are just mobbing him, and all those people saw the fight. And, I think the key for Rolly is he didn't embarrass himself. I believe a lot of people thought he was going to get knocked out inside like 3 rounds and he was going to look foolish and everyone was going to be talking about how much of a bum he is. But that's actually not the case, and that's not what's happening. People are actually like, yo, Rolly's a pretty decent fighter. Like, I wouldn't mind watching Rolly again. So that's how I think he won. Just like Pitbull Cruz took a L and won against Tank because he brought it to Tank. I think these numbers are great. I think, again, you're talking about an event like G pointed out where you're talking about lightweights. And when's the last time we really seen a pay-per-view star in that division?
Exactly.
I think he may be like the first, like realistically, and his star is only growing. If we're talking about Tank versus Ryan Garcia, I think we're talking about a fight that does over 500,000, pay-per-view buys. So I think his numbers will grow. I think he will continue to grow as long as he takes on greater challenges. But if he stays in this 275,000 range, fighting guys like Rolly, as you see, that's still a profit for him. So no one can really say anything. I know people are like Ned. There are people like Ned who are going to look at it and compare these numbers to like Floyd Mayweather numbers and all these other numbers. But you got to keep in mind, they didn't start off making those numbers. And like, even when you're talking about 1 million pay-per-view buys, that was years ago. That was at a different time. I think like the most successful recent pay-per-view that we saw was McGregor and Floyd Mayweather. And you're talking about 2 stars who crossed over, like a star who crossed over into boxing. But those numbers are solid, man, especially for, guys in the lightweight division. And we'll see what happens moving forward.
Yeah. Let us know how you feel in the comment section. Please like and subscribe. Check us out on Instagram and Twitter. And please check out our podcast on all major streaming services. Elevation single out now, all major streaming services. June 14, tune in to the Brothers Listening Party when you get to hear the whole album. It's the Boxing Bros.